Have you ever wondered how the tiniest choices in your day, like pausing before you react, smiling at a stranger, or writing down one new idea, can completely shift the course of your life? That's the butterfly effect in action. It's not just a theory from science or chaos mathematics, it's a living principle you can harness. In this journey together, we'll explore how your smallest, most conscious actions can ripple outward, shaping not just your future, but the lives around you. And by the end, you'll see that growth isn't about massive leaps, it's about tiny, deliberate steps that carry extraordinary power. The butterfly effect began as a scientific observation, not a motivational slogan. Edward Lorenz, a meteorologist in the 1960s, discovered that tiny variations in initial conditions, like a decimal point changed from 0.506127 to 0.506, produced wildly different outcomes in weather models. In plain language, a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil could, theoretically, set off a tornado in Texas. That's how the name was born. But here's the fascinating part. What started as chaos theory in mathematics has become one of the most powerful metaphors for human growth and transformation. Because just like weather systems, our lives are incredibly sensitive to the smallest inputs. Every choice, every thought, every habit, they ripple outward in ways we often don't see until much later. Think back on your own life for a moment. Can you remember a seemingly insignificant decision that changed everything? Maybe it was a random conversation with a stranger that led to a job, or saying yes to helping someone that turned into a lifelong friendship. Or perhaps it was something as small as picking up a book in a library, a book that ended up shifting your worldview forever. These are personal butterfly effects, microactions with macro consequences. History is full of these stories too. Take Rosa Parks, for example. She didn't plan to spark a nationwide movement when she refused to give up her seat on that Montgomery bus. It was a small, personal act of courage in a single moment. Yet that flap of the wings became one of the defining sparks of the civil rights movement. Was it predictable? No. Was it powerful? Absolutely. And it shows us something essential. Greatness is not always born of giant leaps. Sometimes it's born of quiet, stubborn microacts of integrity. Or consider Steve Jobs. Dropping out of Reed College might have looked like a setback at the time, but it freed him to sit in on a calligraphy class, which later inspired the beautiful typography Apple became famous for. That once more, irrelevant choice created a ripple that shaped the design culture of technology itself. A butterfly flaps, and the digital world changes. The same applies to our inner lives. Neuroscience tells us that even the smallest shifts in thought can physically reshape the brain. This is called neuroplasticity. Every time you practice gratitude, for example, you strengthen neural pathways that make gratitude more natural next time. It's like training a muscle. Tiny repetitions compound, until one day you realize you've become someone who sees light where you once only saw shadows. The butterfly effect is etched into your neurons. But here's where most people get stuck. They dismiss small actions as not enough. They think, what's the point of meditating for 5 minutes? What's the point of writing one page? What's the point of choosing an apple over fries once? And yet, this is where transformation hides. A single cigarette doesn't kill you. But smoke one every day for years and the ripple is devastating. Likewise, one act of kindness won't solve the world's problems, but a daily posture of kindness. That ripple can transform communities. So the question is not whether your actions ripple. The question is, are you conscious of the ripples you're creating? Philosophy backs this up too. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." What he meant is that greatness is the sum of tiny, deliberate acts. And the same wisdom echoes in Eastern traditions. In Buddhism, each thought is said to carry karma, an energetic ripple shaping the future. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that no effort on the spiritual path is ever wasted. Every step, however small, matters. You see, the butterfly effect is not just science. It's a bridge between science and spirituality, between chaos theory and human experience. It tells us that uncertainty is not our enemy, it's our canvas. Small actions create possibilities, and possibilities are where transformation is born. Now, let's bring this closer to home. Imagine two versions of your day. In one, you hit snooze, skip breakfast, and scroll your phone for an hour. In the other, you wake up, take 2 minutes to breathe deeply, drink a glass of water, and write down one intention for the day. Which day do you think creates better ripples? It may not seem like much in the moment. But fast forward those choices over months and years, and you have two completely different lives. That's the butterfly effect at work in your own routine. And here's the empowering part. You don't need to predict the whole storm. You don't need to see exactly how your small choice will unfold. Your job is simply to flap the wings, to make the tiny, conscious, intentional move. Life will take care of the rest. So let's start rethinking growth. It's not about one big breakthrough. It's about microactions that accumulate, like raindrops filling a river. And once you see this, you realize something life-changing. You are never powerless. Every breath, every pause, every decision is a ripple maker. The butterfly effect is not happening to you. It's happening through you. Think about your brain as a garden. Every thought you allow, every emotion you nurture, is like planting a seed. Some seeds grow into nourishing fruit, others into choking weeds. The butterfly effect reminds us that even the smallest seeds, a fleeting thought, a brief mood, can grow into something that shapes your reality. Neuroscientists have shown that our brains operate on electrical patterns known as brainwaves. When you're calm and meditative, your brain shifts into alpha or theta states. These states make it easier to learn, to visualize, and to connect with deeper creativity. A single deep breath, or 1 minute of stillness, can literally change the frequency of your brain. That's not poetic exaggeration, it's measurable science. And it matters because these shifts, though small, compound into new habits of mind. That's the butterfly effect working inside your skull. Consider the placebo effect. People given sugar pills, told they're receiving real medicine, often show genuine improvement. Their belief, a thought, an expectation, cascades into chemical changes in the body. Tiny mental ripples become physical healing. This shows us that small shifts in mindset are not trivial. They are biological powerhouses. Your body listens to your thoughts more than you realize. But let's get real. We all face days when growth feels impossible. You might think, one good choice can't undo all my mistakes. Or it's too late for me to change. That voice of doubt is familiar, isn't it? Here's the truth. The butterfly effect is proof that you're never trapped. No matter how chaotic your past, the smallest conscious act today can open new futures tomorrow. Just as chaos theory shows unpredictability, it also shows possibility. You are never out of options. Let me share a story. J.K. Rowling was a struggling single mother before Harry Potter. She has admitted she nearly gave up on writing more than once. But she kept tapping away at her old typewriter. Page by page, tiny acts of persistence. None of those individual keystrokes looked like success. But together, they became a global phenomenon. That's the butterfly effect of perseverance. Small acts of showing up, multiplied over time, changing not only her life, but the lives of millions of readers. Now, let's zoom in on something practical. Emotional intelligence, your ability to notice, name, and navigate your feelings, is built the same way. You don't become emotionally resilient in one leap. You become resilient by pausing once before reacting, by choosing to listen once instead of interrupting, by forgiving once when you could have held a grudge. Each tiny choice is like a butterfly wingbeat in your emotional world, setting off storms of healing and connection down the line. Have you ever snapped at someone you love over something minor, then regretted it? That moment is a ripple. But so is the moment you catch yourself, take a breath, and soften your tone. Which ripple do you want spreading outward? That's the choice the butterfly effect lays before us every day. You can't control all the outcomes, but you can choose the seed you plant. Pop culture gets this too. Think about the movie It's a Wonderful Life. George Bailey thinks his life is meaningless until he sees what the town would be like if he'd never existed. Every tiny act of kindness he once dismissed, saving his brother, lending a helping hand, standing up for what was right, turned out to shape an entire community. His flaps were invisible to him, but not to the lives he touched. Isn't that true for us too? We rarely see the full extent of our impact, but it's always there. Psychologists talk about the butterfly effect in habit formation too. James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, explains how 1% improvement, repeated daily, compounds into massive transformation. One push-up, one glass of water, one sentence written, none of these feel life-changing in isolation. But together, they rewire your identity. You don't just do the push-up. You become the kind of person who doesn't skip workouts. You don't just write one page. You become a writer. That identity shift is the storm born of a tiny flap. Here's where spirituality and science converge. Quantum physics suggests that observation itself affects reality, the so-called observer effect. In other words, where you place your attention changes the outcome. Isn't that eerily similar to what sages and mystics have always said? Energy flows where attention goes. A small shift in focus, from lack to gratitude, from fear to trust, doesn't just change your mood. It changes the energetic field you carry into the world. And people around you respond to it, consciously or not. Another butterfly wing beat. So what does this mean for you, practically? It means you can stop waiting for the big moment, the big break, the grand opportunity, the huge shift. Instead, anchor yourself in micro-actions. Drink the water. Take the breath. Write the line. Reach out to the friend. Each is a wing flap. And while you may not see the tornado yet, trust that something is moving in the unseen currents of your life. At the same time, let's acknowledge the struggle. Sometimes you try, and it feels pointless. Sometimes you do the right thing, and it doesn't pay off right away. That's part of the chaos too, the delay between cause and effect. Think of planting bamboo. For years, nothing appears above the soil, even as roots spread underground. Then, suddenly, the stalks shoot up, towering in weeks. Growth was happening all along, you just couldn't see it. The butterfly effect in your life often works like bamboo. Invisible progress, then sudden breakthroughs. So don't discount the small efforts. Don't underestimate the ripples. Remember, chaos theory says outcomes are unpredictable, which means possibility is always alive. And possibility is enough to keep moving, one flap at a time. History is filled with butterfly moments, tiny events that shape the destiny of nations and civilizations. Consider this. In 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand's driver took a wrong turn in Sarajevo. That single mistake put the Archduke directly in the path of his assassin, Gavrilo Princip. The shot fired that day triggered World War I, which reshaped the entire 20th century. One wrong turn, a flap of wings, cascaded into decades of global upheaval. But let's balance that with the positive. In 1961, a young John F. Kennedy gave a speech at Rice University, declaring the bold goal of sending a man to the moon. That single moment of vision ignited the space race, inspiring generations of scientists and dreamers. You could argue the internet itself traces back to that speech, because NASA's pursuit of technology accelerated computing, satellites, and global communications. One sentence, one spark, rippling through decades. Philosophy has wrestled with this idea long before chaos theory gave it a scientific name. The ancient Stoics believed that small disciplines, practiced daily, were the foundation of virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." He understood what modern neuroscience confirms, that a fleeting thought, repeated, becomes a belief, and a belief becomes destiny. A butterfly wingbeat of attention, becoming a storm of character. In Eastern wisdom traditions, we find echoes of the butterfly effect too. Buddhism teaches that karma is not just about grand actions, but also micro-actions, a single word spoken in anger, a glance of compassion, a moment of mindfulness. Each ripple influences the web of interdependence we live in. The Tao Te Ching says, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." That's not motivational poster fluff. It's chaos theory expressed in spiritual poetry. Even folklore tells us this truth. There's an African proverb, "When spider webs unite, they can tie up a lion." Small, fragile threads, insignificant alone, but unstoppable together. Think about social change movements. Rosa Parks refusing to give up her bus seat in 1955 was one quiet act of resistance. But that moment, that wing beat, sparked a storm that became the civil rights movement. Millions of lives shifted because of one woman's choice to stay seated. And it's not just politics or history. Art carries the butterfly effect too. Vincent van Gogh sold only one painting in his lifetime. One. He died in obscurity. But his small, obsessive acts of painting, brushstroke after brushstroke, eventually transformed modern art. Today, his canvases are priceless. His work has healed, inspired, and moved millions. The butterfly wings of one troubled artist, still stirring storms over a century later. Let's bring this into your own reflection. Imagine the people who have shaped your life most. A teacher who encouraged you when you doubted yourself. A friend who listened when you were breaking down. A stranger's kindness that lifted your mood on a hard day. Were those grand gestures? Usually not. They were small moments. Yet they redirected your trajectory in ways you can still feel. That's living proof of the butterfly effect. Now, here's a philosophical angle. The butterfly effect doesn't just highlight the power of small actions. It also humbles us with the reality of uncertainty. Because if one small flap can unleash a storm, it also means we can't predict where things will lead. The Stoics would say, focus only on what's within your control. You can't control the storm, but you can choose your flap. That's both empowering and freeing. You don't have to micromanage outcomes. You just have to plant the right seed. There's also a mystical interpretation here. Many spiritual traditions suggest that reality itself is interconnected, that nothing stands alone. Indigenous cultures speak of the web of life, where even the smallest creature has meaning. The butterfly effect is a modern scientific echo of this ancient truth. Everything touches everything. Every choice, every gesture, carries threads of influence into the wider tapestry. Pop culture has dramatized this too. Think about the movie The Butterfly Effect, starring Ashton Kutcher. The idea that changing one small detail in the past can completely rewrite the future resonates because we feel the truth of it. Or in Back to the Future, where bumping into your parents as teenagers nearly erases your existence. It's playful fiction, but it mirrors the deep intuition that our lives are fragile chains of tiny causes and effects. But let's get practical again. Knowing all this, how should you live? Should you fear every small choice, in case it unleashes chaos? No. The point isn't fear, but awareness. It's about realizing that the little things matter and leaning into that with intention. Smile at the cashier. Start the book. Take the walk. Send the message. Each wing beat may feel small, but you have no idea what storm of good it might unleash. And here's the paradox. Sometimes you'll never see the storm. You'll never know how much difference you made. That compliment you gave could still be echoing in someone's head years later, keeping them going. That small habit you started could be building resilience for challenges yet to come. The butterfly effect teaches us to trust the unseen, to act with faith that the ripples are real, even when invisible. So maybe the deeper lesson is this: live as if everything you do matters, because it does. Every word, every thought, every gesture carries weight. And in the chaos of life, where outcomes are uncertain, that awareness can guide you. You don't need to control the storm. You just need to keep flapping your wings with intention, kindness, and courage. The rest will take care of itself. The butterfly effect reminds us that no action is too small, no moment too insignificant. Your choices today, a kind word, a new habit, a step toward growth, ripple outward in ways you may never see, yet they are never wasted. Personal growth doesn't demand grand gestures. It asks for steady, intentional microactions, repeated with patience. Over time, those small flaps of your wings shape not only your future, but also the lives around you. So as you move forward, remember this: you don't need to wait for the perfect moment or a massive breakthrough. Begin with the smallest act of alignment and trust the ripples. Each choice, however small, carries the potential to change everything. If you found value in this video, hit like, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more insights on thoughts, mentality, and personal growth. Comment below with your experiences. Your small actions might inspire others.